Hi guys. Okay, I gotta remember to look at the camera over there. Okay, yes. Okay, so I thought I'd make a quick video because I often get a lot of questions asking me, how do I stay motivated? How do I continue to push? How do I continue to grow? And if you guys have noticed a big difference between the Marimba that you knew a couple of years ago, since most of you have been following me for many, many years now, to the Marimba or the person that I am today. I used to state, that of course, the Majimba was really my alter ego. And it was a way for me to act up. It was a way for me to pull in the audience. It was a way for me to be unapologetically myself. And I was terrified. I was terrified to be two different people at the same time. And what I mean by that is that, I didn't know how to keep the balance between being my absolute self and then portraying something for the audience. You know what I mean? I am an entertainer and I know what to say and what to do to pull in the audience. But it came to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm pulling the wrong people. I'm pulling unnecessary attention to myself and my vibe. So I figured I'd do a video about it. And, you know, honestly, believe it or not, a lot of my growth has to do with God. I keep forgetting to look that way. It has to do with God. Let me see. Hold on. Lighting sucks here. Give me just a second. Maybe that's better. I don't know. Think so. But yeah, so it has to do with God. And the reason why I say that is because God is a huge part of my life now, and He wasn't many years ago. I was a hypocrite, and I'm gonna be completely honest about it. I was a huge hypocrite when it came to my relationship with God. And not that I'm this huge religious freak now, or I consider myself any type of religion. It's not necessarily that. It's more of like I said, my relationship with Him, or just in putting Him first in my life. And it does make a huge difference, honestly, because once you have a relationship with God, you start to look at things differently. You start to relax more because you start leaving things in God's hands. And it was something that it took me a very long time to understand the concept of. Now, don't get me wrong. I was never, I guess let me just do a quick recap as far as who I was and how I was raised. And maybe a lot of you guys can relate to that. And what I mean by that is I was never raised going to church. My mom was one of those that would go to churches only when they had like special events or something like that. So God wasn't necessarily always implemented in my life. My mom had a Bible, but we never really read it. But I was, I was one of those where I would literally go to church and be freaking falling asleep because I didn't understand, any of it. So a lot of times people get discouraged because either God, is used against you, like my parents used the Bible against me because I was gay. Oh, in La Biblia it says this, in La Biblia it says that. So I was always terrified. I was honestly terrified and felt like, oh no, well, God doesn't love me, so screw that, And I was also one of those hypocrites. Something that I realized lately is that I've been doing a lot of more preaching, a lot of more trying to implement God into people's lives, because I used to be one of those where, like, I'll see like a Facebook status or somebody saying, oh, que Dios te ama. And I would never pay attention to them. I'll be like, get the fuck out. I'll be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, quit your preaching shit. Like, take that shit elsewhere. And I never understood it. I really never understood it till now. Now I realize the importance of implementing God. So I catch myself often just wanting to literally write like a big status about the change He has done in my life, or, or sometimes there's even been times where God like pulls me in and helps me share certain messages. Then now it makes sense. Now I'm like, I think back to other statuses that I've seen and stuff like that. And I'm like, Oh man, now I see why this person shared that. Now I see why this person did that. Now, it makes sense now. So, one of the biggest things that I've realized with having a relationship with God is the fact that you learn to trust His choices for you. Your life is already planned out. Whether you don't understand half of the things that are happening at the moment, it's already planned out. So, with having God in my life, no matter how hard my day has gone, no matter how many struggles I'm facing, no matter what, I take a moment because we're all human, we're allowed to have feelings, and I know we tend to overreact and tend to act based off of the heat of the moment, or with anger or crying or whatever the case might be, and that's normal and it's okay. But I've gotten to that point in my life where I'm like, and literally anything that happens, I'm just like, I take a moment, I breathe, and I'm like, okay, God got me. It could be literally the worst news, and I'm like, God got me. It is what it is. And I trust it. When it comes to relationships in general, when it comes to people, when it comes to coworkers, when it comes to my own decisions, I'm like, okay, I got this. You know what I mean? And I started also realizing that about how I treated others as well. I used to get self entertainment out of making fun of people, for everybody's entertainment purposes, not no, not necessarily only myself, but I know we can all be petty sometimes, but I that's also something that I implemented on myself, is letting go of all that bullshit. You know what I mean? And simply focusing on me, on my growth, and what's important to me. And that itself has made such a huge, drastic change in my life. And I'm doing the same thing, trying to implement that to my kids. And what's really important, and it's not like I go to church all the time, but this is something that I have to point out because I know it made a difference for me, is the church that you go to. I know you might think that all churches are the same, but that is not right. That's not true. All churches are not the same. I've gone to many, and it wasn't within the like maybe the past 2 years that I found one where like I felt welcome. I felt like I wasn't judged. I literally felt like a relief. Like every time that I would go, it's almost like a motivational speaking every time. I'm not sure what you guys are into, but I love doing motivational activities and implementing that in my life. And that has also made a huge difference because every time I've gone, there's been moments where I busted out crying because I wasn't understanding what was happening in my life. And then when I went to church, the pastor gave this message, and I'm like, huh, that makes sense. And that's not something that you can get from anybody. Not that I'm telling you to go read the Bible, because I myself, I don't do that. I take what I need from God, because that's why He's there. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just wanted to share that. So if you are ever in doubt, just know that God loves you regardless. I know that a lot of kids and teens, the Bible is used against you because of your sexuality or whatever the case might be. That is false. God made you because He made you that way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So be proud and love your absolute self. The goal is always to grow, baby. To grow. Okay, so número dos. The next thing that I want to share is the fact that I'm constantly, even though a lot of people see me like this motivational person, you guys gotta understand that people like me are the ones that need the most need the most motivation, believe it or not, ironically, because people like me have suffered a lot in different aspects of life. So we need that constant push. So another thing that I do is I'm very careful and particular about what I follow. And what I mean by that is that A lot of people tend to, like, for example, follow, you know, different influencers. They tend to follow relationship goals, couples. They tend to follow a lot of unnecessary bullshit. So I feel like it's so important to evaluate that. You know, evaluate the people that you follow. And one thing that learned to do is to follow myself. You know what I mean? Like, we all have somebody that we look up to. We all have role models. We all have all of that. But there comes to a point in your life where you have to be that for yourself. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I felt like no matter who I was being encouraged by, it was never enough until I started to implement different things in my life that made me become that. So, like, I am at that point in my life. I am now 30 years old, and I feel fucking unstoppable. I feel like nobody can phase me. I feel like, listen, man, I can work at Mickey D's tomorrow and I am unstoppable. Like, nobody has anything on me. And it's all because I've done the work from the inside. You know what I mean? To get myself to this level. And like I said, it has to do a lot with what you follow. Like, for me, myself, if you notice, I do not follow a lot of people on social media. Why? Because it's social media and people are very typical nowadays. And a lot of people also do a lot of shit that other people do. Like, it's all the same thing. You know, like I said, relationship goals. They'll follow, you know, like, be like sucked in by freaking fashion, makeup, and all of this shit. Well, no, I literally, if you noticed, a lot of the people that I follow, especially on my Instagram. So if you guys notice that I don't follow you back, it's, you know, I'm very particular. Is because I surround myself with what I encourage to be. And that has to do, you know, like, for example, I follow motivational speakers. I follow TED. If you do not know what TED is, you know, it's like a motivational speaking YouTube thing. But yeah, and you know, I follow quote pages. I do, you know, I've started doing a lot of reading. That's something that I never used to do in my life. Again, it was something that wasn't implemented or was thought to shared to be important in my life until I realize it now. I do a lot of things that are going to make me feel good. And a lot of that has to do with who I pursue, follow, and who I surround myself with. If you guys notice, I've had the same friends for the past couple of years. Maybe people that you might see me in pictures with, or here and there, people I come across, but that is the extent. I do not allow these people to influence me in any kind of way. I do not allow these people to come around my personal life, because it's one thing for me to go out and see you out there. Great, we'll have a blast. But somebody that you actually bring home, close to your home, no. No, that's very rare for me to even allow somebody to get that close to me. It's not even about trust issues. It's more about, like, what are you bringing into my life? How are you, you know, pushing me? How are you impacting me? And this is something that you guys have to evaluate when it comes to friends. Careful who you allow into your life. You know what I mean? It's okay to be cool with people from a distance, but be careful who you allow into your life. You need to have friends that constantly push you, friends that constantly support you, friends that constantly give you reassurance. Those things are extremely crucial, not only for them, but for yourself. And set standards. Set standards for absolutely everybody that even attempts to get close to you. You want loyal friends? You better be loyal from the get. No exceptions at all. Okay? So that's another thing that I do. And numero tres. The numero tres. And another thing that I can share that I do is that will make a difference in your life is letting go. And what I mean by letting go is letting go of the old you. I feel that a lot of people, because they're raised a certain way, or are around certain people, they gain these characteristics from these people, and they end up making the same mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people that are born in the hood and stay in the hood. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people that talk like crazy ratchet and end up being raised talking crazy ratchet. Like, you guys need to stop that. You guys need to educate yourself. It's okay. Trust me, I do it sometimes. I'll be like, yo, bitch, like, bitch, what? You know, and it's funny. It's funny to do that with your friends, but it's important to realize that that vocabulary and that characteristic isn't really you. It's what's in. It's part of the trend. And I feel like it's important to separate yourself from that. You know what I mean? Like I said, I used to do it a lot for entertainment purposes because it's what's in. You know what I mean? But like I said, I realized that I needed to become who I wanted to see, who I aspired to be. And the Marial that I was a couple of years ago is definitely who I'm not today. You know, I used to be hold grudges. I used to be mad. I used to, do shit for entertainment. There was a lot of things that I was that I refused to be anymore. And that's the magic of it all is, creating this image for yourself of what you aspire to be and do all the necessary steps to become that, to be that. And anybody who does not push you to be that, including yourself, you just need to eliminate it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you are your biggest cheerleader. You are your biggest believer. So stop doubting yourself. Stop doubting your potential. Stop doubting literally everything in your life. And it's time that you start believing in yourself. And it's time that you start working on yourself. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who comes in and out of your life. You need to have your shit together for you. Not for a relationship, not for your parents to be accepting, but for you. Whatever's going to make you absolutely happy is what you need to do. Okay? So, there you go. I hope these 3 little tips, I guess, help you some type of way.